nursing program at Blue Ridge, and so that's pretty awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Dave.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good? We don't have our energy up yet, right? I'm going to work over the next 3.5 hours to try to get your energy up so that we can have it. I'm just kidding. It's not 3.5 hours. Don't worry at all. It's like, we'll stop when we're bored. And I think that that's really the best way we're going to function here this morning. But I'm super excited to be back. I'm super excited to get a Zeta shout out for my wife. That's really helpful. My goal will be to eclipse that when I finish, that you feel better about me than you did about her. So we'll see. But we can be honest about that as we can go. I know you have your phones out. I got no problem with that. You can keep your phones out. Actually, if they're out, why don't you hit us up on social media. You can talk about it. I threw some hashtags up there. Be Dynamic's a great hashtag. That's the company that we're kicking off right now. The second one is the Madison Spirit. And the third one is hashtag SSCMUF17 Hangout. If you don't know what that means, that's the Student Services Center Madison Union Fall 17 Hangout. It's going to go viral, but I need your help to get it to go viral. So if you can use that hashtag over the next little bit, I think we can really get it to take off. We want to recognize there's power in the choices you make. You guys are student employees. That's a super powerful thing. When I was here from 1999 to when I finished, that was something that I was almost every year that I was here. I paid a good share of my tuition myself and got through, but I realized that I learned a lot along the way, and I want to share that with you. But I've got the chance to talk to a lot of groups over the years, and I realized there are things we can do to make our time together more fun. One of them is to play a game called Password. Any of you ever play with this game with your friends, family? I'm going to assume you didn't raise your hand because you don't know what the game is, and I'm hoping that's what worked out. But in just a second, what's your name, sir? Brendan. In just a second, I'm going to ask Brendan to give me a word, and it can be any word he wants. So he can pick literally any word that exists in the language, and all I'll ask him to do is give us this word. And then for the rest of the time that we're chatting, if I say that word, if you say that word, if anybody says that word, we're going to cheer like we're Dukes at our heart, okay? We're going to try to knock the roof off. We're going to try to bring so much energy into the room we can't. Brendan's a little nervous right now because he can't think of what the right word is, not realizing that there really isn't a right word. Any word can be an effective word at this particular point. Do you have a word for us? Go ahead. Dukes. All right, so the word is going to be Dukes. So what I want to know is if we, at any point as we continue to talk, say the word Dukes, I want you to cheer like this is the best thing that has ever happened to you. Do you understand the point of this game? So if I say Dukes, you're to cheer and interact with me. That's twice I've said it and you've done absolutely nothing. So I'm not sure totally if you're functioning just yet this morning. So anytime you hear me say Dukes, or all right, so we're getting closer. We'll see if by the end of the time we can actually get where we want to end up. I will tell you a story. One time I had a person who was a real ball buster, right? And so I set him up just like I set him up over here, and the person chose the word of the day to be the. I made it 6 minutes before I said, we can't do this anymore. I can't, because every time I said the, people cheered like you're going to cheer when I say Dukes today. And because of that, we got nowhere. So I had to cry uncle and give up on that particular one. But I'm excited to be here. I think good things are going to happen. I think we're going to have some fun time together, and I'm going to be able to tell you some of the stories. Because for me, it's really cool to understand what that is, but to be back here at JMU, because I'm one of you guys. I came to this school. I didn't grow up here. I'm from out of state. Anybody from out of state? Nice. A lot of out-of-state people. Philadelphia people? Yeah. Pittsburgh? No, that's the wrong side of the state. That's the good side. Just teasing. All right, so came from out of state. It was one of the things, and did a lot of things. I was president of Student Ambassadors in 2002. Yeah, I was in Res Life. I was a hall director multiple times along the way. I was an outrigger. I was in 1 and 4. We went to D Hall fairly regularly while I was here, and we caused shenanigans all over the place as we went. We were also highly athletic as the people I hung out with. We were intramural champions in 2001 for basketball. I was the most successful passer on the team. I didn't shoot because I'm not very athletic, but we were ready as we went through that. In addition, what you might not be able to see in this particular photo is we decided in our group one time it would be fun to go to a UREC yoga class in 80s attire. So we got headbands that were bright orange, and we dressed like we were straight out of the 80s and went in. They didn't let us stay, but the intention was good, and I think we had a good time. Also, what I have that you guys don't have is we are part of the original national championship team in 2004 when the Dukes won it all. Now you guys have the 2016 team. People who went to Fresno? Anybody? Couple people? Frisco? Well, if you went to Fresno, you'd have missed the game, apparently. But if you went to Frisco, you'd have seen where they were along that. So we had that along the way. And I worked at the festival. Now, you guys call it the Festival Conference and Student Center, but we just called it the festival at the time. So I worked up there, and I spent a lot of time in that ballroom doing setups. I want to share with you that I have an OCD issue. This is a horrible job to have if you have significant OCD, because what you may not know, Madison Union team who hasn't worked up there and the other team who hasn't spent as much time there, is the rugs have little lines in them. And when you go to set up 800 chairs like auditorium style, when you have OCD, your goal is to make sure every chair lines up on the line, like exactly. So it took me forever to do these setups because I would be in there like 2 in the morning trying to make sure that the lines were exactly straight. And Bob Davis would be like, you can't continue to spend this amount of time on setups. I'm like, but it looked good, didn't it? He's like, yeah, I guess it did at the end of the day. So it was fun to be able to do that as we did. And I worked with a lot of cool people. Dave Barnes was here when I was there. Mark Klein was here when I was here. Bob Davis was my direct supervisor for several years. Jeremy was over there, worked with Ritter. And I worked with Megan. Although she didn't look like that then, she looked more like this back in 2003-ish. Since I left, a lot of things have changed in the world. We look at one another different. We look at the way that we interact very differently. If we can think about it, we look at technology different. We used to get excited about things like the iPhone. Now we're like, here's a watch, it swings, and you can swim with it, and it's everything. We're like, we're bored. We want our technology to be bigger and better. We've rotated where we want the height and weight within our technology and ourselves. We might have given it up. How we talk about sports has changed. Our sports have gone from on the field to on the video game. And when we call someone and they don't pick up, we are now at the point of full panic to say, obviously you're not answering me yet, I've seen you tweet, so you must now hate me. Our relationship is officially over. And this woman, poor woman, she used to be a GIF, was texting before she fell into that particular box on the side of the street, which makes me think that we may have become a little technology reliant as we went along the way. However, the biggest change, I think, is when my parents dropped me off in 1999, they said this. They said, don't talk to strangers you meet on the internet, and don't get into a stranger's car. 2017, I literally have an app on my phone where I can summon a stranger from the internet to get into their car. So things are different. Things are different. My life's changed a lot too. I got married. There's that Zeta that we were talking about earlier. I got involved in the community in some new ways based on that. I came back. I joined the alumni board. I get to hang out with the Duke Dog once a year. I got a job. I'm a professional as we go through that. I'm a dean of a nursing program at the local community college, and we had a bunch of kids. 2 at once to start, which was not our best decision, but we kept going anyway because we're persistent and we're Dukes. So we got a little older as we went through, and we are an incredibly serious family, except when we're less serious, and we just like to have fun as we go through the process. But some things haven't changed, and that's the fact that I'm still a Duke. And there's something about this institution that fundamentally changes you. And it changes every student who comes in here. But people who engage as employees, people who are student workers, it changes you in a lot of ways. And that's some of the story I want to tell. When I was here, the mantra of the institution was be the change. I know we're looking at changing now and rebranding and what it's going to look and feel like, but we were all about be the change. They told us, you have to fundamentally put out in the world what you want. And we all know with things that are happening in the current events in our community, in our valley right now, that we need to engage meaningfully with other people, and we need to be positive for other people, and we need to bring them the energy we want to get back. And I think that's something that you guys have more control and more influence over than you realize. What I tell people is JMU is not a place. Madison is a spirit. And I don't think you can say that at a lot of colleges. I don't say that at Blue Ridge. But there is something fundamentally unique about being at JMU that you will never experience for the rest of your life. The cool thing is, as student employees, you're crafting that spirit for other people who come through your building. And you make choices of how to interact with them, how to have conversations, how to be a part of that, that reinforce and reiterate what that spirit is, and there's value in doing that. So that's enough about me. I want to hear from you guys and see if you're out here this morning. So I'm just going to put a couple bullets up here, and if it's applicable to you, I just want to hear you cheer, okay? So let's hear you cheer if you brushed your teeth this morning. All right, if the person next to you didn't cheer, it's all right if you slide a little to the left side. All right, if you're wearing white socks? Couple people? All right. If you're a freshman or sophomore? A junior or senior? A grad student? Okay. All right, if Rose Library is better? All right. If Carrier Library is better? If you've never been to either library? Okay, oh no, that's it, you know? I'm just making sure. If you work in the Student Success Center? And if you work in Madison Union? I feel like that was the equivalent, so later we'll have a little like Bloods versus Crips moment, and we'll see if we can figure out who's actually better, and we'll figure out who can do that. So what I wanted to share with you in our time are the lessons I think I learned by being a student employee in the festival. And I put it in quotes because that's what we went by that day. But I think a lot of it is about first impressions. So I want you guys to help me with some of these activities, and hopefully they'll go well. So what I want you to do real quick is stand up and find a partner, and I want you to find somebody to talk to for just a minute that you feel like you don't know. Somebody you didn't know when you walked into the room this morning, and we're just going to do something real quick with them. So you're going to have to stand up and cruise around and see if you can find someone you didn't know before you showed up. All right, real quick. Just hang on just 1 second, just real quick. All right, just hang on, just hold on a second, just real quick. I want to tell you what we're going to do, so just for just a second, if I could just tell you one thing. It's not a big deal, but it does influence what you're doing right now, because it's important. So if you could just not have your side conversation for just a second, we would be really good, because you all are Dukes, and it matters. Oh, good. We got your guys' attention. Hey, let me tell you why JMU people are awesome. I love JMU because we're so friendly and so kind, and we like to interact with other people, and we grow our friendships and our social circles and our networks. And I invited you to go find someone you had not known before you walked into this room. At no point did I ask anybody to introduce yourself to this new person. But because JMU people are so cool, you have all probably done it at this point, and now you know this person, which is good. But now what I want you to do is go find someone else, because now you know your new partner. So see if you can find someone, and don't introduce yourself yet. Just hang out with them for just a second. If you haven't introduced yourself, you can stay with who you're with. But see if you can find someone who you don't know, and then I'm going to ask you to do something very specific. Need someone? All right, so in your partnerships, I want you to pick somebody to be person A and pick somebody to be person B. That's all I'll say. I'll be A, you be B, you be B, I'll be A. Pick somebody to be an A and somebody to be a B. All right, now what I want person A, I want you to introduce yourself to person B, and I want you to do your very best to make a really good first impression. So person A, introduce yourself to person B and make a really good first impression. All right. So it seems like you got a sense of that one. Here's what I want to do. Person B. Person B, I want you to introduce yourself to person A, and I want you to try to make a really bad first impression. So person B, your goal is to make a really bad first impression as you introduce yourself to person A. All right, let's try to pull it back together for just a minute. How'd she do? Good? Did she do good? Did you do good as bad or bad as good? Nice. She was good as bad. All right, let's bring it together. Hold on. Let's see. Ready? So I was like, let's talk some more, and you kept talking, and then I said nothing, and you all stopped at once. Interesting. I shall evaluate this later. All right, how'd your first impression activities go? Good or bad? Could you tell the fundamental difference between making a good first impression and making a bad first impression? It's easy to do both, right? Which one's hard? It's hard to make a bad first impression? How many people agree it's hard to make a bad first impression? Really? You can't? You're incapable? Who made a really good bad first impression? Your partner did? You did? Would you come over here for a second? Who did the good bad? Who did bad? Did you do bad? Are you willing to share your bad first impression? It's okay if you're not. Your buddy made you lose? The stranger who you didn't know before we started this activity because I asked you to talk to somebody who you hadn't met with before? Got it. Oh, yesterday he made a bad first impression. But you guys are kind of like the first impression people on campus, right? Because whether it be for students or whether it be for visitors, they're coming through your centers. They're coming through TDU. They're coming through the Student Success Center. And they're looking for you to interact with them. The hard part of that is what you have to realize is at the end of your shift, the last person who walks through, that may be their only time walking through your building the day just the same. So your impression matters all day long as you put that out. And the energy you put out, I very much believe is the energy we get back. I want you to ask your partner and chat real quick on 3 issues. What kind of presence do you have when you enter a room? What first impression do you typically make and the energy you bring? Just take about 60 seconds and try to work that out with the other person. All right, let's go on and move forward. You all are welcome to head back to your seats. So the last question that's on the screen asks if we can claim a power position through our first impressions. As you reflect on that, to me, that says a lot. It's going, in our first impression, I can either say, hey, we're equals, we're on the same foot, and I'm glad you're in this community and we're sharing our space together. Or I can say, look, I know something more than you, I have better influence, you're an interruption, you're an interference, you're not the part of my day that I wish you were. But it sets everything up, right? First impressions are all about cutting through the noise. There's a lot that comes at us all the time, right? They will tell us now, in the year that you spend in college this year, you'll have more information thrown at you than someone who lived in the 1920s would have received in that decade. Think about what that means in terms of how much we have to process, how much we have to stay on top of, how much we're buried in our screens, how much we're doing that. Your job as a student employee in the role you're in is to cut through that noise and get to the finish line to say, you matter, we're glad you're here, and if I can make it a better experience for you, I want to be able to do that. But you have about 2 seconds to communicate that, which is really difficult. But it's this idea of saying you have to be on and you have to be a part of that. And I will tell you, as someone who has hired hundreds of people in my career at this point, if you cultivate and grow and develop that skill in this role, it's setting you up to get the job you want when you finish. Because it's something not a lot of people are super skilled at, and you can distinguish yourself as someone who excels at making other people feel welcome and a part of that community, and nothing but good things follow after that. Sorry, So, it begs the question, how many people are you willing to give your undivided attention? This is for your job here and everywhere else in life, right? Because when we're having a conversation and you're on your phone, or when you go to talk to your roommate or your significant other and they're distracted, you can feel that, right? And it sends a message about value. We have to be intentional about sending value messages that say you matter, as opposed to value messages that say you matter equal to or less than something else that's looking for my attention. We have to be intentional about building bridges to say, let's interact in a way that's meaningful, and together let's grow. Because a lot of it is about perspective. Working in this role at this institution is going to teach you about perspective. And you know what perspective is, right? Perspective is the art of drawing solid objects on a two-dimensional, not the art concept of perspective. Perspective is sort of the lenses through which we look at the world, right? On the next slide, I'm going to put it up, and all I want you to do in your own head is read the slide, okay? That's all you have to do. It's a relatively straightforward task. It's just read what it says. Now, what we know is there are 2 types of lenses through which people look at the world. We have people who look at this slide and see opportunity as nowhere. They tend to be the cynics and the critics, and they don't necessarily be able to distinguish it. Then we have the opportunity is now here people, the people who are ready, the people who are looking at what's right in front of them and jumping on it. Because perspective meaningfully changes the way we interact and engage with others. I want you to find a partner sitting close to you. It can be somebody you know at this point, but just amongst the two of you, I want you to decide that one of you is going to be a beagle and one of you is going to be an eagle, and we're going to do a quick activity. So grab your buddy, say, you be the beagle, I'll be the eagle. All right, everybody good? Everybody know whether you're a beagle or an eagle? All right, so here's what I want to do. I want to talk to just my eagles. So if you're a beagle, close your eyes for a minute. Don't worry, nobody's going to touch you. Nothing weird's going to happen. You're going to be totally fine. All right, I just want the eagles. Eagles, I'm going to put another slide up here, and all I want you to do is read the slide to yourself. All right, eagles, read this slide, understand this slide, lock this slide in, understand what it says. You got it? We're good? Eagles, you're good? Nodding heads? Feel good about it? We got it. All right, eagles, you got it. Good. All right, everybody open your eyes. Eagles, close your eyes for a second. Beagles, I'm going to put a slide up. All I want you to do is read this slide, own this slide, understand what the slide says. All right, Beagles, here's what you need to know. This is the critical information we want you to be aware of. You got it? All right, everybody, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to put up a picture on the slide, and all I want you to do is tell me what you see. All right, we ready? Dukes, we ready? All right, everybody's eyes can be open now. It's okay. If your neighbor has nodded off, feel free to elbow them and bring them back. All right, so all I want you to do is tell me what you see. B is in boy. Everybody sees a B. People see 13. What's the difference? Who's right? Did I plant unfair seeds to try to set you up to look at a specific thing? But the problem is it can be both. It depends on what it looks like. If you look in one way, it can be a 13. If you look in another way, it's a B. It doesn't necessarily mean the people who saw 13s were wrong or the people who saw Bs were wrong or that anybody was right. But we don't get to control what shapes our perspective, but it totally colors the way we interact with the world. We see this all the time when we look at things like this. Is the upper left good or is it evil? In reality, it's both. Next to that, is it a woman's silhouette or is it a saxophonist? What do you see as you look at that? In the lower left, is it two people standing or is it a bunch of vases? And if you can successfully count the legs of that elephant, you are far more skilled than I am because my eyes start to twitch when I get to the fourth one. But it's all about perspective. It's about the way we meaningfully interact with the stimuli around us. This one I can't look at, but you can if you want. All we got to decide is what way Mr. Jordan is facing. Is he looking at us or is he looking off the side of the screen? I'll leave it to you to figure out on your own as you can. But it's about perspective. Why is this meaningful to you? Because all of these perspectives are manipulated experiences. And in your role as a student employee, your job is to manipulate the experiences of other people. You have perspective as an employee. Where do your perspectives as employees come from? Who shapes the culture you deliver? Who tells you to be nice? Yourself, maybe. Megan, maybe. Sonia, maybe. But something influences what that is. And me being nice may be different from you being nice, right? But the problem is it's going to be communicated through someone else's lens. So when you don't look up and say it's the third door on the left, you may say, I gave them the exact information they need. But in their mind, they may have interpreted that as being a curt response. So how do we have this global ability to understand the perspective of others and do that? It's an advanced skill. If you can do that, it's going to make a difference. Third is about vision. A lot of times in doing room setups and doing help, it was so helpful to talk to the person who would use it, say, what do you have in mind? What's the event? What are you going to be doing with this? So we can make sure it's set up in a way that makes sense for you. And looking at what you guys are doing is saying, what is the reality and how can we make it successful on that? A lot of times, I like this King quote. It says, faith is about taking the first step even when you can't see the whole staircase. It talks about taking a chance sometimes, going out on a limb and trying to build something that's meaningful. We have to have vision. The concept, one of the anecdotes that they told us a lot growing up is they said, if you want other people to help you build a sailboat, don't ask them to gather wood. Instead, sell them on the concept of the wind in their hair while we sail. And a lot of that is saying, this is where we're going and this is why it matters. That's why I have this time with you today, to say this can be just a job, or this can be a setup where you're meeting the people who are coming into your buildings who are going to open doors for you down the road. But how you choose to interact and make them meaningful is what sets you up, because vision matters. I want everybody to close your eyes for just a second, and with your left index finger, I want you to point north. Be confident. I mean, just declare it, because if you're right, then it's going to look really impressive. All right, everybody point north with your left index finger. All right, do not move your hand, but open your eyes. Now, I want you to imagine that I'm a ship's captain and we are in crisis. And I said, folks, the only way to get out of this crisis is for you to row north as fast as we can in the hopes that we'll all be safe. Would we be safe? Probably not. Put your arms down. Now, let me tell you, my very favorite people who exist are the people who on that activity point up. I will tell you, I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I'm confident that is north of here, and at no point have I ever taken a rocket ship home. Okay, so we know north should be somehow on the same plane of where we are now. But if I instead said, this is where north is, and if you all come with me together, we can end up at a better place as a result of having done this. But telling you what that vision is makes a meaningful difference. When somebody comes in and you say, why are you with us today? What do you want to do? And how will you know your event was a success? It shows them you're invested. You're a part of what they're trying to do. And you might say, Dave, I'm just a clerk. But it's not. You're an agent of community. You are building and setting a community that is going to influence people's lives day after day after day. You say it's just a coffee, but it's not. It's more than that. And when you can own that, you're going to approach it in a way that's different and more meaningful. Because things change a lot, right? Can you all make the hand gesture like you see on the screen here? Can you put your hands together that way? So this is the change agent, right? So if you look down at your hands right now, what I want you to do is flip your thumbs. It's change, right? Inherently, we don't like change. Nothing fundamentally is different about how your hands are sitting right now, but something in our mind says something's not right. This is a problem. You need to put it back. Now, if you want to do the advanced one of this, go ahead, cross your arms across your chest. Now you're going to have to look down to, no, you can unclasp them, just like fold your arms, like this gentleman here. You guys may have overcomplicated that one a little bit. All right, now go ahead, switch your hands. So put your overhand under and your underhand over. They're still working on it. A couple groups still working on it, but same thing. Is this concept of saying, I want things to be the same, but if we see a better future, a better iteration of ourselves, of the environments we worked in. When I was a student employee, when I was working over here, this room we were in here now was where the pool tables were. And this Auntie Anne's did not exist, which probably was very good for my particular college experience. It was a coffee shop. But things change and they grow, and we feel inherently uncomfortable, but a lot of times change isn't the enemy that we think it is. Change is moving us forward towards a goal. Because in a lot of ways, we set ourselves up for success or failure. If I set them out right, you should all have access to a sheet of paper, right? See if you have one around you. You just need one sheet of paper. I laid them out. And if you don't, maybe you can look at the people around you and see if somebody needs one. But your goal should be to have a sheet of paper. Would you guys pass some extras back? Now what I want you to do is take that sheet of paper and make the best ball that you can, okay? I expect you to get this. Yeah. Not yet. All right, so to introduce the next point, the next takeaway, everybody have your ball? All right, so in just a second, I'm going to ask you to stay where you are, but to get your ball into the tub up here. So you're going to throw your ball towards the trash can. Your only goal is to get your ball into the trash can. All right, but you have to stay put. Everybody understand what it is? You understand the goal? All right, so when we say 3, Dukes, we're going to do this. You ready? 1, 2. It's a really cool vantage from my point. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, we got 1. Amongst us, we got one of those. The reason that I like to do that is we talk about the fourth point, and that's the humility of expertise, right? So when we look now and we think about that, we all had one goal, right? And our goal was simple, was to get our ball into the trash can. We were wildly unsuccessful as a unit, right? There were some people who were better situated than others, right? The people who were in the front row had a distinct advantage over the people sitting at the back tables, especially when I told you that you can't move. What's interesting to me always, though, is that we put rules on ourselves that we didn't. I said you couldn't move from where you were, right? If he had wanted to, he could have reached out with his foot and gotten this one and pushed it closer, right? But we put on ourselves regulations and rules. My grandfather, when I was little, told me a story all the time, and he said, here's the thing. No matter where you go, you're going to find someone who's smarter than you. But you have to remember there's another environment where the person who's more ignorant than you can put you to shame, can be more comfortable than you. So if I come in and I'm in the Student Success Center and I say, can you come help me get my PowerPoint to project? It's really easy to go, come on, man, this isn't that hard. You need to figure out how to do this. But you have to remember there are places you could come where I know a lot more than you too. And the way we interact tells people what that is. When you have knowledge I don't, how you wield that, how you interact with people, speaks to your character and speaks to the experience you're giving other people. When you make me feel secondary because I don't have that, I end up far away from the goal here on the floor. But when we set people up and say, let me help you, do you want me to come back in a couple minutes and make sure it's still working for you? That's when it starts to say we're in this together, and that's what distinguishes us in all the right ways. When we talk about that, we're each that expert in something. First impressions may not be your thing. You have to work really hard at it, right? But once you get in the room to help someone, all of a sudden you come to life in a different way. So it's about saying, I know what I do well, and I'm going to continue to do it really well, but the things I don't do well, I'm going to push to develop and grow in those pieces as well. How do we set that up, and what does it look and feel like? It's what can distinguish you. When we talk about it, it's all about the golden rule, right? The golden rule says what? Treat others the way you want to be treated. I think this is a horrible rule. I think the golden rule is wrong. Just don't want to get struck by lightning. But the golden rule makes a fundamental assumption that's flawed. What's the assumption? That we all want to be treated the same way. The platinum rule instead, which I like, says treat other people the way they want to be treated. And a lot of that starts by asking questions. I had a boss at my last job who loved public recognition. She loved standing in front of other people and saying, we're so glad Dave did this, he accomplished this, we were glad he did this, and let's all clap because he did this. I hated public recognition, still do. But she loved it. She was a great advocate of the golden rule, so she treated other people the way she wanted to be treated. If instead she had asked me, how do you like to be honored? I'd have said, handwritten note in my box. Her ability to honor and recognize my experience would be that much better because she took the time to figure it out. So when you think about the person who's coming on shift after you, when you think about your supervisor, when you think about the student, the parent, the staff member, the faculty member, or the visitor coming through the door, how can you gauge how they want to be treated and interact with them to say, you're welcome here, we're happy you're here, and we want you to have a good visit? Because doing that matters. Communication is king. So this is very much about saying, how do we interact? How do we communicate? You guys might not be able to see this, but essentially it starts from the upper left to say what was built versus the bottom right, which says what they actually wanted. So a lot of times you might have people who say, can you put a tire swing up for me? And by the time you go through all the policy and all the rules and all the paperwork, they get a swing that doesn't even actually look or feel like that at all. But how we communicate is significant, and people take things to heart as a result of what that is. I want to show you a quick 2-minute video that I think illustrates this point. It's from a TV show you've probably not heard of. It's called The Big Bang Theory. It's new. They're trying to get some momentum, but maybe you'll like this clip and start to watch.
First it was PlayStation, aka PS1, then it was PS2, PS3, and now PS4. And that makes sense. You'd think after Xbox, it'd be Xbox 2. But no. Next came Xbox 360. And now, after 360, comes Xbox One. Why one? Maybe that's only second, but thought they put the name in it.
Can you go to the button, please?
However, with the Xbox One, I can control my entire entertainment system using voice commands. Up until now, that was with Leonard.
Then get the other one. Pass the butter.
Hang on. I don't feel like you're taking this dilemma seriously.
Fine, Sheldon. You have my undivided attention.
Okay, now, the PS4 is more angular and sleek looking.
No way!
It's true, but the larger size of the Xbox One may keep it from overheating.
You wouldn't want your gaming system to overheat?
No, you absolutely would not. And furthermore, the Xbox One now comes with a Kinect included.
Included?
Yes! Not sold separately. Although the PS4 uses cool new GDDR5 RAM, while the Xbox One is still using the conventional DDR3 memory.
Why would they still be using DDR3? Are they nuts?
See, that's what I thought. But then they go and throw in an ES RAM buffer.
Oh, wait a second. Who's they?
The Xbox.
You're kidding!
No, I am not. And this ES RAM buffer should totally bridge the 100 gigabit per second bandwidth gap between the two RAM types.
This is a nightmare. How will you ever make a decision?
See, I don't know. What should I do?
Please pass the butter!
So sometimes we have those moments, right, where the communication just doesn't work and all you want is the butter, but you're distracted along the way. It's the same as you'll feel like somebody comes up to the desk and you're like, we've had this conversation before. I know where you're going. I know what the result is going to be. And you start to finish the conversation before they even had it with you. A lot of times it's about saying, how can we screen this and how can we make sure we're in the moment very meaningfully with them as we do that. All right, 6 is you're going to mess up, and if you're lucky, it's going to be spectacular. I'm all about really big failure. I think the bigger failure we have, the more likely we are to learn from it and grow as a result of it. So if you remember your Beagle and Eagle buddy, just real quick, I want you to take a second and chat with them about the last time you failed really well. All right, we're going to see if we can match a couple of them. So as we talk about it and think about it, failure is about taking a chance, taking a risk. How do we grow in it? So when I put the next slide up, as soon as you figure it out, I want you to raise your hand, okay? This is the goal. A couple people, some other people still working on it. Come on this side of the room. We need some, there we go, a couple more people. If you're really struggling, read the question slowly. There, well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Ritter, you got it? Keep working on it. All right, help out your friends around you if they're struggling at this point because they start to look like that. The question is, can you find the mistake? So the presence of the word the twice. But a lot of times when we feel like we know something and we've experienced it before, we default to making assumptions. And the part of our brain that can finish it simply finishes those sentences. And we don't actually process what information is coming in. And we look for ways to have those mistakes. One of the first things that I try to tell new staff is somebody is going to challenge us one day. How we respond to that, how we grow from that is what's going to distinguish us. And it's going to help us tell that story in a more meaningful way as we move forward. And it happens to all of us. One of the first programs I started when I got my first job was a program about leadership development. And our tagline was conceive, believe, achieve. I was excited about this, so we got t-shirts because that's what you do if you're a Duke. You know, you get t-shirts because that's how you show what you're proud of. So I went and I made these t-shirts up with the graphic design team, and I went to my boss and I said, I want to print 100 shirts that say conceive, believe, achieve. And she said, we can't. I said, why? She said, you're promoting sex. I said, I need help to understand what you mean. She said, well, the word conceive is about conceiving a child. I said, or an idea, or 1,000 other things that you could conceive. Luckily, she didn't ask to list them because I probably couldn't have come up with 1,000. But she said, here's what we'll do. We'll take it to the board. So literally, they had a vote at the board at the college I was at. about whether I could have a shirt that said conceive, believe, achieve, and I lost nearly unanimously because they thought I was promoting sex. To which my only real thought was haters gonna hate, and we moved on with a different mindset at that point. But I still think it's a good idea. And there's a lot of times we're gonna have people who don't disagree and don't agree and don't buy into what we're gonna do. And it happens to lots of people. I'm gonna tell you the story of Stuart Scott in just a couple minutes, but it happened with J.K. Rowling. Do you guys know how many publishers turned down the Harry Potter series before somebody picked it up? 18. 18 different publishing companies said there's no money to be found in this series. Probably 18 who now are like, maybe we missed that one. Jerry Seinfeld got booed off stage when he started doing stand-up. Oprah was told she was too fat to be on TV. And Stuart Scott, who's an ESPN sports anchor who debuted in 1989, when he first went on TV, went on the air, the executives called him in and said, Mr. Scott, we're afraid you talk too black to be on TV and we're taking you off our flagship show. So he went and he wrote a letter to them that said, we're about athletes, we're about telling the story, what are we going to do? Ultimately, Stuart Scott succumbed to cancer just a couple of years ago, but he was the longest reigning desk anchor at the time of his death. Because when they told him, you talk too black to be on TV, he said, I talk to what people want to hear. We tell the story of sports. You have to know where you are and what you're trying to transmit. You have to meet people where they are. They said, you can't say cooler than the other side of the pillow. People don't understand it. Do you know what his signature slogan was at the time of his death? Cooler than the other side of the pillow. But this was someone who knew who he was and was willing to fight to make that a reality. You guys want to try to do a game with me? You up for it? You good? We all right? Or are you bored and you just want to finish? No, I'm just kidding. All right, you want to try to do something? We might fail, but let's try it anyway. One of the things that we got to do when I was an outrigger here was something called the rainstorm. And it's about bringing rain into a room and seeing if you can take an external phenomenon and make it reappear in a different creation on an internal environment. So right now I'm going to come and try to get you guys to help me do this, and we'll see if we can bring a rainstorm into TDU. So I'm going to walk in bows around the front of here, and when I get near where you are, all I want you to do is do exactly what I do. Now in order for this to work, I'm going to ask that you keep all other noises quiet, and we only just listen to one another for the next couple minutes. We good? So all you have to do is exactly what I do when I'm looking at your area. Make sense? All right, let's see if we can make it happen. Did you hear it? So cool, right? If I'd have told you at the beginning of the session, we're going to find a way to bring rain into TDU, you'd have been like, there's no way. But we need people who are thinking differently. And as you're working on your team in the coming year, as you're working with your supervisors, find ways to bridge those gaps and say, what's our different way to look and think about this so we can make it meaningful, set ourselves up for success. Seventh thing I learned is that leadership is contagious. One of my favorite Covey quotes says, managers get up the ladder as quickly as they possibly can. Leaders make sure the ladder is leaning against the right wall. I'm fortunate to know a lot of the people you work with in your jobs, and you're dealing with leaders over there. Take advantage of the mentorship that they can give you. Take advantage of what it is that they can offer you as you grow as people and as professionals. One of the things that I like is when I talk to managers, I get the feeling they're important. When I talk to leaders, I get the feeling I am important. When someone who's visiting your facility comes up to you and says, hey, I hate to bother you, but, and finishes the sentence, we've already lost that conversation. Because something about who we are has put out something that said, if you come and ask me for help, you're bothering me. You're paid to be a resource that says, let's make your experience here good, positive, and meaningful. We have to communicate that at all times in what we put out and how it is. Because it's really about culture and community. Because we can have Dr. Warner talk about what it is, we can have President Alger talk about what it is, but the culture and the community of JMU start at the fundamental level of you, the frontline provider, student to visitor, who make that. And I want to show you that I think it's all about that high school experience. And I don't know if you loved or hated high school. What I have found in years of doing this is that very few people fall in the middle, right? We either love it or we hate it. Where am I loved high school people? And where am I hated high school people? And just to prove me wrong, where are my in the middle people? Okay, good, thank you for that. But when we talk about it, what makes us love or hate it, I think is the sense of community. When we fit somewhere and we felt like we were welcome and we wanted to go and be a part of that, it made sense. You guys are managing multiple levels of community at once. One is with the people sitting across from you, because you're going to build a community as a team who's delivering on what that is. In addition, it's going to be the community of the spirit of your building. And there's 3 different levels of these. You have to decide what's non-negotiable. Is it greeting people when they walk into the building? That's what's always impressed me as an alum when I come back. When I walk into one of your facilities, somebody always says hello. Not in like that subway way where you feel like they're doing it because that's the expectation, but because it's authentic. But what is it for your team that you say, we are always going to do this. We're going to respond to tech help right away. We're going to be quick to answer the phone. We're going to greet people when they walk in. What is it that you will do no matter what? Understanding that sets you up to deliver on it better. Because I think there are 3 different types of cultures that we talk about. And all of that, like I've told you, starts at the individual level. And I want to think about what that attitude comes from. And I'm going to tell you a story, and I want you to imagine it happening to you, and I'm going to tell you the 3 types of people that emerge from this. This story is about road rage. So I want you to imagine it's the end of Thanksgiving, and you're driving back to JMU. You had a good visit at home or wherever it was that you went for the break, and you're coming down 81, and you get cut off. Now, not just like a little bit cut off, like you wonder if you still have the front bumper on your vehicle type of cut off. So you are dealing with that in the moment. Without hurting anyone to your left or to your right, I want you to act out how you would in that very moment your car gets cut off like that. All right, I'm going to tell you that my belief is there are 3 types of people in the world. Group number 1 starts to tailgate the person who cut him off, follow him up to the next exit until they get to the traffic light, gets out of their car, goes and knocks on the window like, where'd you learn to drive like that? What's the matter with you? You're the worst person ever. Are any of those people in the room? No, a couple. Yeah, good. Thanks for being honest. We call these people aggressive, and the good news is when we go for pizza, you're first. It's good. No, we'll wait, okay? Second type of people, and the second type of people make a hand gesture, okay? But they do so under the dashboard, and they give that like wave, like that. Where are those people? Are you here? Yeah, a couple people. We call you all assertive. That's good. I'm glad you own that. And the third type's my favorite people. They take this deep breath, and they let it go. These are deep breath people. Okay, we're all right. Where are my deep breath people, and let it go? Hold your hands high, let it go, people. All right, look around. We call this group the liars, all right? Our attitude gets influenced by the factors that are with us every day. There are things that put us in a good mood, things that put us in a bad mood. But knowing that we are everything that we need, we can restore ourselves, we can repair ourselves. But realizing what happens when your second customer of the day was rude to you and bit your head off, can't influence because that third customer had nothing to do with that. And how do you set yourself up to make sure every interaction is a clean slate for you as you put it together? Because we want to blow our own mind. We want to deliver something that we don't even realize that we're capable of. And as we talk about that, we want to think about owning that experience for thousands of people who come through our buildings every day. And you're responsible for that. Their experience is going to be bad, neutral, or good, and you are very likely to influence that all along the way. Because there's 3 types you'll give them, and I'm going to ask you to stand up and help me with this. So I want you to walk around for just a minute and understand that the first cultural experience is what we call the handshake experience. So all I want you to do is just walk around and shake hands with a couple of people. That's it. That's your only goal. Just walk around, say hey to people, shake their hand. Go. All right, stop where you are. Now, the handshake experience is good. It's effective. We build community, we establish connections, we accomplished our goal. There's nothing wrong with that, and it drives the experience for a lot of us. Sometimes, though, people just need a high five. The second type of experience is a little different. We're going to start again. All I want you to do is walk around handing out high fives. Go ahead. It's the first time I've ever seen a high five train develop, but here it is. All right, so you can see. Hang on one second. Hang on one second. So you can see the experience is a little higher energy. You can feel the energy in the room pick up, because for some people that's how they communicate, and that's what it is. There's a third type of experience, and it's a little different nonetheless. And it's the free hug experience. And we talk about how we interact and how we start to own the community. So I'm going to ask you to play this one more time, and all I want you to do is walk around and hand out hugs. Ready? Go. I had somebody ask me once what the 4th type was, and I didn't think that was appropriate at that particular point. But all right, go ahead, grab your seats. When you talk about the culture you build, it's all about handshakes, high fives, and hugs. And there are different times when different things are going to make sense, but you are the ones who build that in your building. You build and establish a sense of community, and you feed off it in ways that are deep. How you choose to honor your supervisors, how you choose to deliver, that matters. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. And like I said earlier about current events, is people are looking for reasons to rally with one another right now. You guys are a great opportunity as the frontline providers of that sense of community to deliver that. And I know you can, because as I told you already, JMU is not a place. Madison is a spirit. It's what defines us. And you will carry it with you for the rest of your life. But the people who are sitting at these tables are going to open doors for you, they're going to make connections for you, and they're going to be people that you're talking to for a really long time. I still go once a year with 3 guys that I met being a student employee here, camping 1 weekend a year, and we hang out, and we tell stories, and we drink beers, and we have fun, and we remember how Madison changed us. You're on that path. The more you can own it and embrace it, the better you'll be as a result. Thank you for spending time with me this morning. I hope this has been a meaningful chance for you to reflect on going into this year in a good way. I'm happy to hang out and chat with anybody afterward if you have more questions than that. I know you have some more on your agenda, but thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Go Dukes.